Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. This video I have set to publish automatically on Friday, February 7th. That would be Thursday in most other countries, because I and my family are going to be up in the mountains in Nagano, enjoying the snow and hopefully getting in some skiing. That being the case, it may be a little while before I can respond to emails and inquiries. So if you've sent me any emails through my stores or made inquiries through my stores, it might take me a little bit of time to respond to those. I'm not ignoring you or forgetting about you. It's just we're staying in a place between Karuizawa and Nozawa Onsen. And it's kind of remote, and the cell service is iffy, and Wi-Fi I'm not really sure about. But if I can get access to, Wi-Fi or whatever, I'll answer as I can. And if not, we should be back by Tuesday. That would be Monday in most other places in the world. And I'll go ahead and respond to all emails and inquiries at that time. So in the meantime, while we're gone, I hope you enjoy this video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about, the most popular film camera of all time. And that is, of course, the, lowly Kodak Instamatic. And I say lowly because this camera is kind of the bottom of the food chain when it comes to film cameras. Basically, this was a camera which Kodak hoped would get people involved in the hobby of photography. And they were pretty successful. Some 50 million of these cameras were made. These cameras were made for people who had, no aptitude for photography and didn't have the, basic skills which are kind of necessary in using the cameras which were on the market back in the 1950s and 60s. In those days, automatic cameras were pretty scarce. All of them required at least some kind of manual adjustment to the focus or aperture or shutter speed or whatever. And also the film loading in many of these cameras in those days was quite tricky. And even today, people who like film photography will sometimes fumble with film when they're trying to get the camera loaded. Kodak decided to create a camera which was easy to load, easy to use, and which anyone could use with absolutely no skill whatsoever. And they were quite successful. The name Instamatic, of course, is a combination of the words instant and automatic. And these cameras, were the definition of Instamatic. They could be used instantly and they operated fully automatically. You didn't have to do anything to them other than just wind the film and press the shutter button. They don't require any focusing. You don't have to set any shutter or aperture adjustments on them. They're incredibly simple to use. The secret to the Kodak Instamatic is the film, and specifically the film cartridge. And this is one of the film cartridges right here. This is a 126 film cartridge, and it holds ordinary 35mm film, a special kind of 35mm film which perforated only on one side, but which could be processed by places which, processed ordinary 35mm film. And it was pure genius, the design of this film cartridge. And the designer of this cartridge was Mr. Herbert Nerwin, who is also known as the designer of the Contax 2 rangefinder camera, 2A I should say, and the guy who also invented, the Contina and Contessa 35mm cameras for Contax. And he was a wonderful designer based in Germany until he was whisked away to America by Operation Paperclip, which was a program which America instituted to take talented German engineers and some of Germany's smartest people and move them to America and put them to work in the American economy, including things like the space program. Mr. Nerwin was an engineering genius, as evident by the cameras which he designed, and also from this very simple, inexpensive plastic film cartridge, which became the heart and soul of the Instamatic camera. Now, 126 film is no longer made, but you can find 126 adapters for sale on the internet, and with these adapters you can use ordinary 35mm film. You have to load it yourself in a dark place so the film isn't exposed, but it allows you to bring these classic old Instamatic cameras back to life, and they're pretty wonderful. Now, for those of us who who grew up in the 60s and 70s. 60s was a little bit before my time, but I do remember the 70s. If your grandparents are showing you photo albums from those days, likely more than a few of those photos were taken with the Instamatic camera. Now, the basic Instamatic camera, I'll go ahead and I guess start with this one here, just to give you an idea of the basic layout and how it works. The heart and soul of most cameras, I mentioned that was the film cartridge in Instamatic, but with other cameras, it's basically the lens and shutter mechanism. And it doesn't get much simpler than the system they have on the Instamatic. These early cameras had what was called, optical quality plastic lenses, which were inexpensive and easy to manufacture. They feature a 43 millimeter f1, I guess f11 or f9 lens. I think it's an f9 lens. So a kind of a semi wide angle, because in the format these cameras shoot, it works out to about 28 millimeters, and so it has a rather narrow depth of field to begin with. And when you're shooting at an aperture of f9, pretty much everything is in focus, especially given the shutter speed available in this camera. The standard shutter speed was 1/90th of a second, which was enough where you could take a reasonably clear picture without any blur, handheld. And if you were shooting with a flash, you could adjust the flash setting on the front here, and if you switch it to the flash mode, that would slow it down to the sync speed, which was 1/40th of a second. Now, the kind of flash which was available on these cameras varied depending on which model you had. This particular model I'm holding is the Model 50, which was the first one, and it's kind of odd because though Kodak is an American company and was America's largest camera and film company, the first of the Instamax was actually sold in the United Kingdom, and the 50 was the model which was sold there. You kind of spot the 50 because it says 50 on the front, and also because it has this kind of quirky little flash adapter on the top, which you could mount a Kodak dedicated flash with a simple flash bulb and a battery inside. And basically these two contacts here, when you depress the shutter speed and you have it set to the flash sync speed, the flash bulb will fire and you can take a picture. And though it sounds like a very simple system with, I guess, limited capability, it was actually quite useful. Pretty much in most daytime conditions, you could take a perfectly normal picture. And if you were shooting indoors or at night, simply adding the flash on would get you a good exposure. So it was an ingenious design. The camera's made mostly of plastic with a few metal parts inside. It has a shutter winding button here. Some of them have knobs. It depends on the version of the camera you have. Loading the film is remarkably simple. You simply just drop the film cartridge in the back and close the door, and then you simply wind it until the number 1 shows up in the window in the back. So it doesn't get any more simple than that, and simply just compose and shoot and you've got a photo, hopefully. I happen to find an old roll of film here. This film expires in, what was that, June of 1972, a long time ago. It's kind of interesting to find an original roll of film from that long ago, still in the original paper backing. There were a number of different films available in monochrome or color. And as I said, you can still find vintage film, but probably most of the vintage film you find like this here, I'm certain this wouldn't work anymore, especially being here in Japan where it's so hot in the summer and so cold in the winter. Later film from the early 80s or later 70s might still be good if it's carefully stored or kept in the closet somewhere in California where the climate isn't too bad. But as I said, if you want to use one of these cameras with film, you can buy a 126 adapter and just load your own. The first American version of the camera was the Instamatic 100. You could kind of tell the difference between the camera made for the British market and the one made for the American market. The one from the American market has a little bit more chrome on it and a few more added features because it was a more expensive camera. Back in the 60s, America was quite a rich country relative to the rest of the world. And Kodak could make a flashier, more expensive camera, which otherwise did kind of the same thing. About these cameras here, let's see if I can open this up here. There was an improvement in oh, there it is. The flash system where you could actually put the batteries in the camera and use a flash when you want without having to add an accessory flash gun on the top. This one has a flash bulb and it hasn't been used. It's kind of interesting. I could find the batteries for this and find some film. I could go out and take a few photos with it. It has this kind of like dummy looking light meter thing on the top, but the camera doesn't have a light meter. Some of the later Instamatics were fitted with light meters and more options when it came to the shutter speed and aperture, but basically the same camera as the 50. And as time went by and there were more improvements, this is a Instamatic 124. I think this was made in Canada, this version of camera. And this was the camera which introduced the old flash bulbs, or the square bulbs which fit on the top, which gave you 4 flashes. I remember these when I was a kid. They were quite popular, and my grandfather used one of these, not an Instamatic, but some other camera which used these flash cubes. And these flash cubes were, through the 70s and even into the early 80s, they could be fitted to the smaller Instamatics, which used the 120 film. But otherwise, the camera is basically the same as the 100, a little bit cleaner design. This shows a little bit more of, I guess, the 70s, aesthetic compared to the early 60s style, but basically the same boxy shape. Good thing about the American products and their products in those days, they had something which was called, I guess, obsolescence or planned obsolescence built into products, where they would go obsolete after a few years, so you have to buy a new one in order to stay in fashion or whatever. But Instamatic, it was such a good seller that they didn't really have to change it much over the years. If you like to use the cartridge film, but you wanted a more sophisticated camera which would allow for better image quality, and the image quality of these cameras was fine for back in the day, but it's certainly not up to the standards we expect nowadays. Other makers made cameras which used 126 film. For example, I have a Yashica here, and this is was it Yashica Easy or Easymatic, something like that, if I remember the name right. And basically, this camera uses the same film cartridge, but has a focusing system which allows you to focus it more carefully, and a much more sophisticated optical glass lens instead of the plastic lens. And of course, this camera still uses the old flash bulbs. And this camera also offers a variety of shutter and aperture speeds, and has an electronically controlled system to regulate those. So if you like the 126 film cameras but want something more sophisticated, you can get a Yashica or a Minolta. And I think even Rollei made a camera which used 126 film. So these were really cool, and if you're going through, I don't know, junk shops, pawn shops, things like that, you're probably going to come across these. If you're going through a box of your grandparents' old stuff, you might find one of these cameras in there. And if you want to shoot them, I would recommend going out and at least giving it a try, to see what people used back in the day before the more, I guess, modern automatic 35mm film cameras, and way before digital cameras. And as I said, adapters, you can find them on, I've seen them on Amazon and eBay and other places. And basically, you can just buy the adapter and buy a roll of 35mm film, and put yourself somewhere dark in the closet, and make sure you read the instructions on how to do it first, and then simply load the film into the cartridge, and you're good to go. Anyway, that's it for my video about the Kodak Instamatic. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope, if you have any questions, I don't need to say I hope twice. If you have any questions about these cameras, not that I'm a huge expert on the Instamatic. I did have one of these when I was a kid, the 124 version with the 4-way flash bulb on the top. Feel free to ask if anyone has any, anecdotes to share about their experiences with these cameras. Please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And I had wanted to share some photos with these, but I couldn't find the negatives. I was going to have them scanned and hopefully get them put up so you could get an idea of what these cameras are capable of doing. But you can easily find these on the internet if you want to see what they are. Maybe some of you will be impressed, others of you will be disappointed in the quality of the images these cameras take. But they're really cool and a very important part of photographic history. And it was due to these cameras largely that photography became such a popular pastime in the 70s and 80s. People took photographs with these, and maybe they weren't especially happy with the results and decided that they wanted a better camera, and so they went out and bought something more expensive and more sophisticated. And also, yeah, these cameras, they got really, they were a good marketing tool for film. And Kodak made most of its money in the film for these cameras, not the cameras themselves. And I think in many instances they actually gave these cameras away as prizes and things like that. If you collected enough green stamps, and older people remember what green stamps are. You could get the camera, and then when you got the camera, of course, you needed film for it. You could trade, buy the film, and Kodak would still make money. But anyway, I think that's about it for the video. My voice is getting a little tired here, and I've got to go pick up my dog at the groomers. He's got to go with us up to Nagano, so he's sure to have a good time. I plan to make another video next week. I've got a couple of more things lined up, so if you'd like to see that video, please subscribe or check back. If you like this video, please click the like button. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.